Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're looking at the most recent release of chapter or episode 732 for One Piece. Not the most amazing chapter, but for the most part it was a setup chapter which sets up the finale of the finale, so the final round, so to speak, or the final battle between Dolflamingo and Luffy, which is pretty much right at the end. But we'll get into the main core details of what happens in this episode. Not that much amazing thing does happen, but without further ado, let's get into the review. So the episode itself kind of covers a few main topics really. There's a few areas, a few little funny scenes that happen in the actual episode. So to cover this, like, the topic is Dolflamingo himself, the whole thing with Rebecca and Viola. There's a whole thing with the people from the Colosseum, the Navy soldiers, the Wano samurai and Zoro kind of pushing back. You've got the Tontatta as well. So you've got that going on, you've got the Rebecca stuff going on, and you've got the people of Dressrosa, and then in Dressrosa as well you've got Law with Luffy. So the episode starts off, and what we're going to do with this one is kind of break it based on location. So the episode starts off with everyone's kind of running for their lives, and basically Guts is struggling to get to the top of a platform, like in the mountain area that everyone needs to get to. So to get to that, and he tries motivating the people. I found this part of the episode seemed to drag quite a bit. It took up a big chunk of the actual episode, and I did find that it was following turns and purposes. Is to pad the actual episode out. But he basically says Lucy is Luffy, the king believes in him, we shall believe in him, and the people want to believe in him. And so that's effectively part of what he does in this point, and really starts building the belief and the hope into that. Not that King Rico hasn't done that in his 59 other speeches in this arc, but he really just reinforces that, which, to be fair, I found it did better than in the manga. The manga for me seemed more annoying. I think a lot of people that did the reviews thought that as well. But I could see what he meant when he was pushing it in this in the anime episode. He seemed a lot more motivation. People at first were giving him crap as well, which was interesting. So that's point number one. So point number two is effectively dealing with the birdcage. So there's people in different areas. You've got the Colosseum fighters that are pushing against a barrier that Bartolomeo's created. You've got people, the Tontattas and Frankie, pushing on the factory because it's made out sea stone, and you've got the samurais and the navy and Zoro pushing back with the swords. So it's haki. So that's pretty much a section that we kind of come and go throughout the episode for. We kind of find out the motivations of people. You get Bartolomeo trying to motivate people, and then you got other people throwing it with him. But really, it looks like Sai from the Hapon Navy has got that charisma about him, as he's able to kind of really push them forward and do what they need to do, whereas they find Bartolomeo annoying. So I think Bartolomeo, for all intents and purposes, is really a selected kind of pleasure, I guess, a guilty pleasure more than anything else, so people don't find him as motivational as other leaders. But I like the guy, he's funny. So basically at a certain point in the episode, people start collapsing, and mainly the people that took a lot of damage. And the first person to collapse was really Hadruden, because he went through a massive fight with Mac Vice and he broke bones when he threw his final attack. So you'd understand when time runs out, he'd be the one to go down. And you get Manchuri that's crying, because basically once your time limit has been reached, you can't redo it. It's not a do-over, and she's upset because she couldn't save many people. But then the Kabuto guy basically says that you saved so many countless lives we don't even know. So it's interesting to see that, and basically Sai takes over and goes, look, send them back, bring whoever you can, let's carry on. And it really shows his leadership ability now as the 13th leader of the Happo Navy. So that's point number two. Point number three is to do with Luffy or Lucy, and it links into everything else, because Guts is talking about the promise he made to take down Dolflamingo in one blow. Well, the funny thing about this episode was there's two little funny parts. One funny part was when Sai was pushing back. He goes, everyone push with me, and then Babyfell was like, oh hey, yes, and you're like, no, don't cling on to me, getting all nervous and stuff. And you had this scene where Guts was basically talking about Luffy, but before he mentioned his name, you've got a Cavendish going, oh, he must be talking about me. And he got excited, and then he hasn't realised that Law is gone, which leads on to the part about Luffy. So Law is effectively looking after Luffy while his 10 minutes run out. So at the beginning of the episode, we get the 60 seconds, and towards the end of the episode, we get the countdown. So you got basically 10, 9, 8, and Guts is really pushing, and everyone's cheering Lucy, Lucy, Lucy. He gets to 3, he gets to 2, and boom, he gets hit with a white blow attack. Now, one of the reasons why he gets hit with a white blow attack is because earlier on in the episode, Guts is giving him crap, saying he's going to get taken down, and you fooled us by manipulating everybody, and the king, and everything else that we all know about, right? It really, really reinforces that, and Dolflamingo doesn't like it. Pow! Hits him with a white blow. And even then, he's Guts does his thing, and he stays with it, and he goes, yes, time is running out, and it goes 3, 2, 0, 1, and everyone goes quiet, which leads on to point number 4, the setup for the finale. So, the setup for the finale, which is point number 4, as the countdown is going on, obviously people are ready for the Haki to come back in there, for the battle to really kickstart, and everything's going on like that. But at the beginning of the episode, you see that bit by bit, Dolflamingo is being the despicable guy he is. He's using Rebecca to try to kill Viola, and as that's inching closer throughout the episode, he really steps up a gear, and then when it hits 0, and then when it literally hits 0 as in the timer, nothing happens. So people are like, where's Lucy gone? And he starts laughing, thinking, oh, Lucy's not coming back, let's finish this. So he goes for the finishing attack, which basically will force Rebecca to kill her own auntie, with the Viola saying, look, I'm sorry, don't worry about it, close your eyes, you don't need to see this, this is like a nightmare. And she's worried about the kind of effect that it would have on Rebecca's brain. Meanwhile, while the countdown was happening, Luffy was starting to get back up. So just as the final blow is meant to land, Law switches Viola and Luffy takes the blow to the head when he's got his hakied up forehead, and it looks like it splits the sword, which basically sets up the end of the episode. So people will probably complain about this. I'll talk a bit more about this in the final thoughts, but that's point number 4. So point number 5, final thoughts. The episode in itself was relatively simple. It did a lot of moving from different scenes to different locations and different things that were going on. But for the most part, it was pretty much a setup chapter. A lot of people are probably going to be a bit annoyed with it because it took 23 minutes to discuss 60 seconds, and 10 seconds took minutes. And when you look at the breakdown, I did some breakdowns actually. I'm just going to see if I can get out specific information. So when I was looking at the version I was watching online, it took 5 minutes of the 24 minutes for the opening. So they really flashed that out, the recap, the opening, the opening, and things like that. By the time we got halfway through, or more or less towards the end of the speech, Gat's speech, 14 minutes of the episode had already gone. So that's even before they started doing the countdown. And then when it basically got towards the 10 second mark, 18 and a half minutes of the 24 minutes had already gone. So that's even way before when they've just started the countdown, and then that started kicking off, and then it got to 0, and there was about a minute or 2 left. So realistically, they dragged out this whole thing for the whole episode, but at the same time, I can't even really remember how long it took in the actual manga, but I'm sure that took a while anyway. So I remember the end of the actual chapter was the end of this episode. So I can see how they've dragged out some bits and bats before that, but literally they wanted to set it up with the same cliffhanger as they did in the manga, which is fair enough, but I can understand at the same time where people are disappointed with it. But what this does do now, it gets all that out of the way, and the main battle really starts. And to be fair, this battle isn't that much longer, as a bit of a spoiler from the anime, but this really is the finale of the finale, and then amazing revelations will begin. But anyway, that's all for me today, guys. I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 10. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't the most amazing. It wasn't good or great. It was passable, I guess, at best. But it did some interesting things. It did set up the finale of the finale, and hopefully we'll see that next week's episode. But that's all for me today, guys. Peace.